Expectations through the roof. Welcome in, everyone, to our first edition Big Ten Media Days live right here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you stopping by here on a Tuesday. Leave those comments and questions there in the chat. We hope to have live coverage from Big Ten Media Days in Indianapolis with our guy, JR. We have already posted a couple interviews from Denzel Burke and from also Jack Sawyer, Ohio State cornerback and defensive end, to the Ohio State channel. So check those out. And we will provide more interviews and audio and video from the podium throughout the week on all our Big Ten channels right here at the Voice of College Football. Again, we are on the ground. We are on location at Big Ten Media Days for a second consecutive year here at the Voice of College Football. So please check out all that we have to offer. And we will get to some of those comments here in just a second, but we hope to be joined by JR live from Big Ten Media Days. And again, comments and questions here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you stopping by. Big Ten Media Days, as you see on the banner, presented by Chris Gates Fitness and the new membership opportunity for you of training camp to get yourself whipped up into shape, and we will tell you more about it in just a few minutes. So we appreciate Chris and all that he does for fitness across this great country of ours, and you can take part in a tremendous fitness plan. So be listening for that. All right. Again, ACC Media Days, but they've got to be different and call it ACC Kickoff. It was day 2 there in Charlotte, and no real significance in regards to the teams involved. Stanford and Cal in the ACC, yes. Speaking today, I caught some of Brent Pry from Virginia Tech. The Hokies, 91% offensive production back. That's why many people are picking them to make noise in the ACC and possibly make it to a college football playoff. I certainly listed them among my dark horses. Virginia Tech and North Carolina State out of the ACC. Again, 91% offensive production back, 77% on defense. ESPN's number 21 team in their top 25. Brent Pry talked about the culture, talked about Chiron Drones. And Chiron Drones is one of the up-and-coming quarterbacks in college football. He's a big gentleman. He showed up in his Virginia Tech Cardinal and black. Pardon me, Hokie fans, if I got the color scheme not quite right, but that's generally what it is. And Virginia Tech has 19 of 22 starters back. Kamari Copeland, if you're into weightlifting, squatted 605 pounds 10 times. 10 times on the squat, 605. That hurts my knees, my back, just thinking about it. But it won't hurt yours if you sign up for Chris Gates Fitness Training Camp. And again, we will get to that in just a second, but we will present more football with you. That's pretty much my take from the ACC. Listen to Brent Pry once again from ACC Media Days. And I really think what has happened there is that Justin Fuente was not a good recruiter. Justin Fuente did a nice job at Memphis, took over for Frank Beamer, took Frank Beamer's roster and won with it. 9-4, 10-4 ACC championship game appearance, but then down the tubes, couldn't maintain the program, didn't sustain it with recruiting, lost out on most of the top players in the state of Virginia, and Brent Pry is starting to make inroads in the state of Virginia. And that's important. The state of Virginia is one of the top 10 football playing states in the country, really under the radar in regards to the quality of football play in the state of Virginia, and Virginia Tech starting to once again land some of those best players. So Virginia Tech once again, the talk of the ACC today at ACC Kickoff in Charlotte. Let's get to the Big Ten. David Braun, 1 year ago, right now, was at Big Ten Media Days as the head coach at Northwestern, as an interim head coach, and as a 2-week head coach. He'd only been in the program for 1 year. He was the defensive coordinator taking over for Mike Hankwitz, who was around for 51 years as defensive coordinator. David Braun takes over, just thinks, I'm going to be the DC here. Pat Fitzgerald's going to be around forever. He already has been around forever. And boom, scandal. Fitzgerald out, David Braun in. And remarkable the job he did. If there's a coaching award out there that he did not win last year, I don't know what people are doing. I seriously don't understand. You're talking about a first-time head coach embroiled in controversy, thrown into the job at the end of July. He takes a team that was 1-11 the year before. They were expected to win 0, probably 1 game because they played Wagner. I think it was Wagner. They only won that game by 3 points. If you would have been given the score of that game before the season started, you would have said, yeah, Northwestern's only going to win 1 game because they could only beat Wagner by 3. 8-5 with a bowl win against Utah. David Braun, remarkable. I still just kind of let it sink in. Can't believe it. He got 103 players to stay on that team after all that controversy and apparently all that mistreatment of players. And we still say apparently because that is still ongoing, that investigation. But now he gets his first full cycle as a head coach. So again, he had no offseason preparation. Of course, he did on the defensive side as a defensive coordinator. But now he gets a full year. He got to go through the season, got to go through bowl practices, which was huge, I'm sure, for this team to not just win a bowl game on national TV and show, hey, we are the Cinderellas of 2023, but to get in the work in December, go right into the offseason, get a full recruiting cycle, full 2 transfer portal cycles, offseason conditioning right into August camp. So David Braun, this team is being completely dismissed. And that's the way it is at Northwestern. They're always going to be dismissed. I don't know, though. I know that they're not that talented. I know that they probably have less talent than everybody in the conference, outside of possibly Purdue and Indiana. They are probably the least talented team in the conference. I get that, but they got the most production coming back from a team that went 8-5. Now, they lost their starting quarterback in Brendan Sullivan going to Iowa, but Ryan Helinski's back. They've got a number of options there. They actually lost their starting quarterback, Ben Bryant, a number of times last year. So even their backup replacement, heir apparent, would have been the starting quarterback. Brendan Sullivan moves on. So I don't know. Keep an eye on Northwestern. Just don't be surprised. And then in came Brett Bielema with Illinois. He talked up his team. He talked up the recruiting process, not just in high school football, but the recruiting process in the transfer portal. And Illinois picked up a lot of experienced football players, headlined by Terrence Brooks, who started 20 games at Texas. So if you can play cornerback and start for a college football playoff team, you should be able to start for Illinois, although that has been their position that has been the best on the team generally the last 2 seasons under Brett Bielema, has been the corner and safety position. But they have stockpiled on transfer portal players. Brett Bielema and PJ Fleck, take your pick. Who do you think's better? I believe I had them ranked right above and below each other in my coaches' rankings, which means I think they're basically, although very different guys, they're resumes, their track records, their accomplishments, and their current job status, their current job performance. Although Flex is better, of course, at Minnesota than Bielema at Illinois, is very similar. I rate them as two excellent football coaches, not elite. They're not the best. We don't know what they would do with elite programs, although Brett Bielema went to Rose Bowls at Wisconsin, 3 consecutive Rose Bowls. But they have to be the two best coaches in the country who have no shot to win, who have no shot, even in this 12-team college football playoff, do PJ Fleck and Brett Bielema, unless things drastically change on the college football landscape and at those universities, not necessarily the landscape. The landscape's just going to continue to change in a direction that's going to not benefit those two universities. That they are the two best coaches in college football that are at programs that just aren't going to be a factor. And I hope that we can look back in 10 years and I could be wrong and we could say Minnesota made a college football playoff and so did Illinois. Don't think so. But I always like to hear from Brett Bielema. He seems to be a stand-up guy and a straightforward guy. And I like that he hits the podium and he really highlights the stories of the players and how they came to become Fighting Illini and how they chose Illinois. And he knows, not that the other coaches don't, but for some reason it resonates with Bielema, with me, is that he knows the players. He knows their stories very well, and he likes to highlight them. All right, so that's Bielema and Braun. And again, we touched on Virginia Tech's Brent Pry at ACC kickoff. I did not see Ryan Walters from Purdue, so we'll get right to Ohio State. Okay, let's get to the players. And again, we posted videos from Big Ten Media Days, so check out the Ohio State channel. We've got 15 minutes with Denzel Burke. We've got 10 or 11 minutes with Jack Sawyer. Jack Sawyer, he came, until I watched Denzel Burke, Jack Sawyer came across to me as one cocky, no, not cocky, just extremely confident guy. And laid it all out there. There's always that question about embracing expectations. Do you embrace the expectations, the pressure? Well, these guys sure seem to be. But Jack Sawyer just talked about the decision to come back, why he came back. We know that these guys are getting compensated, but they're not going to talk about that. Shoot, professional players don't even talk about the compensation being any kind of factor. Of course it was. But he talked about coming back with 12 total players from last year's team that could have opted for the NFL draft that decided to come back. Now, if they could have had Marvin Harrison Jr. make that decision, or yes. But Jack Sawyer, nothing in particular there. Now, to quote Jack Sawyer, when asked about Jeremiah Smith, he said, my first thoughts were, I hope there's not too much pressure on him. He's the number one player in the country. There's all these expectations. When you come in as the number one player, not just a 5-star, the number one rated player, not the number one rated wide receiver only, the number one rated player in high school football, you come into a situation and so much is expected. And he thought, we're fine at wide receiver. We're good. I hope he just learns the system, learns his position, hones his technique, his fundamentals, gets comfortable, all those things. And then Jack Sawyer said he saw Jeremiah Smith for the first time in camp. And to quote Jack Sawyer, holy shit, thought this dude can play right now. He can get it done in the college game. But Denzel Burke is about as, he's a quiet speaker. He sounds like Walter Payton. Sounds like sweetness. He's got a nice, mellow, low tone. His heart rate barely moves, I think. The very calm guy. However, the vibrato out of Denzel Burke, he's the best cornerback in the country, and basically took on every question to say, we're here to win championships, and we're here to win. Okay, we got to beat the team up north, win the Big Ten championship. We'll be back here in Indianapolis to win that on our way to a national championship. I'm the best cornerback in the country. We've got the best defense. We've got the best team. And he not only talked about winning all the games, but dominating all the games. So again, I'm not going to be able to repeat it as well as Denzel Burke spoke it, but check out the Denzel Burke take from the podium. It's over on the Ohio State channel. Mighty confident. I'm guessing somebody, Ohio State media or Michigan media, it's going to be one or the other, is going to hit up Will Johnson. Is Will Johnson coming to media days? I would guess that Will Johnson would have been one of the selections, because this is going to be his third season, probably his last, that somebody would hit up Will Johnson to say, Denzel Burke called himself the best cornerback in the country. What do you think of that? So I think we will hear that out of Denzel Burke. So now I've got a lot to say about Ryan Day, and I certainly want to hear from you. Comments and questions are welcome. Please use the Super Chat contribution as well. We also are taking your phone calls, so the link is in the chat, I do believe. I sure hope so. We should have the link in the chat. Otherwise, I will make sure the link's in the chat. And yes, Stephen, we will talk about Paul Feinbaum being a clown. Yes, I will get to that here in just a second. We do appreciate our sponsor here for this fine week of Big Ten Media Days. This is presented to you by Chris Gates Fitness and Training Camp. Oh man, this is good stuff here. This is amazing what has been provided to us here, courtesy Chris. And I got faked out by some of my information here, so hang tight. You guys are amazing football fans. You're massive football fans. I hope you are taking the same time and attention and taking the same fanaticism to your fitness goals. I hope that's the case. Training Camp is a monthly fitness program designed specifically for football fans. It's honestly like nothing we've ever seen before. And I got to say, I have looked over the site. I'm going to take part in this. There are fitness programs right now. I've got an app myself. I've got friends who pay $50 and $60 a month for apps that just basically have a training program that's just do this workout every day, and that's all there is to it. You've got nobody to lean on, nobody to really ask or guide you. But Chris has been coaching people for years. He's a massive football fan. He's created a community and training camp. So you know as well as I do that if you want to hit your fitness goals, you probably need support. You probably can't do it every day by yourself. And you've got Chris to lean on. You've got a community to lean on. Hey, just like here at the Voice of College Football community. So whether you've struggled to stay consistent in the past, felt confused, and let's understand this as well. I've worked out my whole life. It may not show it, but I've worked out my whole life. You may as well. But do we really know what we're doing in the gym? Do we waste a lot of time? Do we not know the most productive and most effective ways to work out? Yeah, that's it. But when you join training camp, you'll get top-notch coaching from Chris. He'll deliver monthly workout plans to help remove all the guesswork with exercising so you can just show up, put in the work, have confidence that you're doing things that are going to work and gain the results that you desire. It will fit into your busy lifestyle. And again, you get the private online training camp community where members gather for support, participate in challenges, win prizes, all of that. Training camp is centered around sustainable results, no crash diets or extreme routines. Chris tells us here, you can drink beer, tailgate for games in the fall, and still make progress. Okay, here's the deal. You get all of this and so much more. There's a lot more in there. I didn't even touch on the nutrition portion of this, but that's on the website as well. And you get all this for basically a coffee run. Right now, Chris is offering a massive discount. If you sign up this week, you can get your first month for just $10. That's 80% off the monthly price. $10 for the first month. And we have left the link both in the description section of the video and in the chat. Use promo code VOICE. That is your promo code to use for Chris Gates Fitness, and it's called Training Camp. All right. Love having a quality sponsor here at the Voice of College Football, and we never have anyone sponsor us that we do not believe in. All right, on to Ryan Day. Now, earlier in the day, I saw a clip where, again, it's Paul Feinbaum, who I seem to have more respect for than most people do, but even my respect is waning by the day. And it's not because he picked on Ryan Day. It's why and how, and there's usually little substance to it. He's a headline guy, meaning Feinbaum. He doesn't really deal much with substance or any type of analysis that goes below surface deep. And that's what it is. So if you didn't see it, there was a clip from Ryan Day, and it looked to be probably on ESPN's morning show. You could tell he was in his hotel room, probably at Big Ten Media Days, and it was a webcam, so he wasn't in the studio, and was asked just about beating Michigan, achieving all the goals, and making it to the college football playoff and the national championship. And Ryan Day said what you would expect him to say. Losing to Michigan is unacceptable. We have failed to reach our goals 3 consecutive years, but we can't beat Michigan tomorrow. It is so insanely stupid to ask about. I know you have to, in a sense, because that's what everyone wants to hear about. But if Ohio State goes out there and loses to Penn State and Oregon and somebody else, they're not going to be in the playoff. These guys don't get to a point of playing for championships by not lifting the weights and doing the running and memorizing the playbook and doing all the things that they have to do today to win today. You've got to win today. Well, they don't have a game today, Mark. I mean, getting better today. So what can Ryan Day say? He can't do anything about the last 3 years. He can't do anything about that. All he can continue to say is that it's not acceptable. It's not good enough. I heard him say what he has said forever at Ohio State, back to when they beat Michigan under him, or since that they've been losing to Michigan. Basically, you can't lose any games at Ohio State. We have to win every game. Now, we know in practicality, they don't have to win every game this year. They can lose 2 and still be the national champions. So there's nothing wrong with what Ryan Day said on ESPN today. Absolutely nothing. He didn't make excuses. He didn't make any outstanding claims about what they're going to do. He just simply said, and I agree with this, even though people are putting extra emphasis on this season because the team's loaded. When is the team not loaded? When are the expectations not to win the Big Ten championship? It's been the best program in the conference for 20 plus years. So I don't see this season as being much different. I really don't. I just think that creates better discussion, more heated discussion. So then Paul Feinbaum jumps on and provides his minuscule take, which was basically, I'm sick of hearing this from Ryan Day. He's got to start beating Michigan. He's got this gaudy record, but it doesn't mean anything because he doesn't win big games and they keep losing to Michigan. And so I'm sick of hearing it from Ryan Day. Ryan Day can't do anything about beating Michigan today. Don't bring him on your lousy show. It's just so insanely stupid. So incredibly stupid. Any comments or questions? Don't see anything in the chat. Our buddy JR, who's on site there at Big Ten Media Days, is trying to connect. I see him popping up there every so often. He keeps trying to connect with us. Hopefully we can get him because, man, we would love to get the report from Big Ten Media Days. That's why we sent him there. But sometimes it's difficult to connect inside that dome. I was able to do that a couple times last year. Brought the old laptop, did a show with Corey Bratta for Bleacher Report, and then also we must have done the Iowa show from there as well. So that was doable last year. But yeah, it is many times difficult to hit from inside the dome. We do appreciate y'all being here at the Voice of College Football. And we're breaking down Big Ten Media Days and ACC kickoff as well. If there's anything you'd like to discuss, yes, I believe we've got JR. Awesome. JR, what's going on today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I am doing just fine. You look like you've taken in a full day of Big Ten Media Days.
Steve Hellwagon just walked by and told me to tell you hello.
Steve? Good to see you there.
Going to the break room, so
going to the break room.
They didn't leave a whole lot of time for the Ohio State people to have some time to eat, so.
No, they pushed you to the end.
Yeah. So, but can't complain. It's been a great day here. I got to listen to a number of coaches: Ryan Walters, David Braun, Luke Fickell, Ryan Day. Oh, I'm trying to remember all of them. Brett Bielema. Who was the other one? Obviously, trying to remember who the other one was, but yeah, a lot of great discussions and hearing from the players as well. So overall, just been a great day.
So we'll start with Ryan Day. I was just talking about the slam that he took from Paul Feinbaum today. I don't know if you saw anything about that, but it was nothing out of the ordinary. Ryan Day was on whatever show that ESPN has on in the morning, and basically he's going to get asked the same thing he's going to get asked by national media. Why can't you beat Michigan? Are you going to beat Michigan? Are you going to win the national championship? Can you meet the expectations? And of course, he's going to say, well, we can't beat Michigan today, so we're just working and taking day by day. And that's unacceptable what's happened the last 3 years. And we know that at Ohio State, and we expect to correct it. And that's what we're working toward. And then Paul Feinbaum gets on and it was just silly. He just said, I'm sick of hearing this out of Ryan Day. When's he going to beat Michigan? He's got this gaudy record. And he's lost all of his big games, but Ryan Day can't do anything about that today. So I don't know what else he was supposed to say. So anyway, your thoughts about Ryan Day there at the Big Ten Media Days?
Just professional as always. Did a great job answering every question. He honestly didn't get very many questions about Michigan or anything like that. He got maybe a couple here and there that kind of alluded to that, but no direct questions on what are you going to do to beat Michigan this year. Honestly, the players got more of that than Ryan himself did, because a lot of it was the unfinished business talk that we have heard from the players. Jack Sawyer, he actually got a little emotional. That's what they actually kind of opened up with when it came to him, and he got a little emotional talking about how business. And for him, being a kid growing up in Columbus, he said, sometimes it's hard for him to walk through. And obviously, I'm paraphrasing here. I'm not directly quoting him, but he was just talking about how sometimes, you walk through the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. That's where Ohio State's team and everything is at. And you see all these championships, you see all these scores, all these NFL players and everything, and he knows he's going to be in the NFL someday. But if he doesn't contribute to a championship, if he doesn't contribute to beating Michigan, those kind of things, how will he be remembered? And he kind of said it himself. He said he probably won't be remembered, and he doesn't want it to be that way. And I think that Jack Sawyer kind of in a sense, gave us his pitch that he's given to the other players, and I think I would have came back too if I got that pitch.
Yeah, he sounds kind of like he was the ringleader in talking to everybody else out of the 12 that decided to come back, that he was one of the first or maybe the first, and then kind of rallied the troops.
Yeah, definitely hearing him talk, and then also hearing Denzel Burke talk. Unfortunately, I didn't get the chance to hear Emeka Ibuka talk other than just interviews that other people were doing on the side, because I was mistaken. I thought there were 45 minutes for the players, but there was only 30. But anyway, they did allude to the fact that Jack Sawyer was pretty much the one as soon as the Missouri game was over, and even before the Missouri game was over. Hey, let's play. We have unfinished business. We can't leave Columbus without accomplishing Big Ten championship, beating the team up north, all those kind of things. So it was very interesting to hear both Jack and Denzel talk about that, not just from the defense perspective. I mean, they talked to everybody. Mecca Ibuka came back, Trevion Henderson came back, all those different players.
Got JR here breaking down Ohio State and media days from the Big Ten, day one in Indianapolis. You mentioned Denzel Burke. I don't know that I've ever heard somebody who talks so calmly, quietly, and sweetly, but have as much vibrato as he does. He says, I'm the number one cornerback in the country. Uh, we're the best team. We should win the national championship. He just lays it all out there. We should dominate every week, he said at one point.
Yeah, Denzel Burke is my favorite to listen to. As soon as we were getting over there to listen to players, I popped right down in the front row seat for Denzel Burke. And honestly, I wish I had spent the whole time over there. Not that Jack Sawyer wasn't great, but you're right. Denzel Burke, he has such a calming voice, but the way he is able to have confidence, it really empowers you and everybody else around. But what's interesting is just how sometimes he is so commanding. Sometimes it can be a little hard to ask your question or get your question off. When I was around Jack Sawyer and Ryan Day didn't seem to be very many nervous people at all. But when people were asking Denzel Burke, you could hear a little bit more of that kind of nervousness of what they were going to ask, because I think some people don't know always what Denzel Burke is going to come back with. And he gave it to somebody one time. Somebody asked him a question. He was like, "Well, I don't know what you mean by that." I don't think I caught that part on video. I think I got that after I was leaving, but I don't know what you mean by that. But yeah, we want to win the Natty.
Well, yeah, I heard somebody go back to his first game against Minnesota, national TV game Thursday night, and possibly being nervous or being a little intimidated, stepping on the field as a starter, first time at Ohio State. It's a Big Ten game, and he's kind of like, that's another day in the park. I'm not built like that. I've always been given confidence, and people have mentored me to be confident, and so I knew how good I was from day one. And then the other thing that hit me concerned, oh shoot, I lost it. So that was one. But yeah, he's fun to talk. Oh, the other was concerning kind of the noise, blocking out the noise, and made a statement that at one point he just decided none of these guys have played football, so why listen to them?
Yeah, no, there was a little bit of a funny response from everybody else around. Not like something audible, but you kind of see people like, "Ooh," it's like, can we really ask Denzel Burke questions then? If none of us have ever played football, but yeah, he did give that answer, and it was very interesting to hear him talk about just who he allows to speak into his life and speak into what he's doing, not just on the football field, but outside of the football field, things like that, and you can tell that Denzel Burke is very mature and he knows exactly what he can do, what he wants to do, what he's good at, and what he's going to accomplish. And I felt like it was very interesting how much he was willing to talk about the other guys in the secondary as well. Had nothing but glowing things to say, obviously, but talking about, how much he can trust them and he does his job and they do their job. And it just seems like a group that is being very cohesive right now. And hopefully this will come together well for the Buckeyes.
Okay, JR, anything else from Big Ten Media Days with Brett Bielema in Illinois there, Luke Fickell in Wisconsin, on down the line? What stood out to you? What were you able to catch that stuck with you?
Yeah, Greg Schiano from Rutgers was a very very confident in himself and everything he said. And, there was a point where I actually got to ask him a question. I asked him about his time at Rutgers the first time and how things are looking now and, what's similar, but also what's different. If people were watching on TV, they kind of got that question. And he just talked about at the end of the day, it's football. At the end of the day, yes, these guys drive different cars to practice and things like that. But at the end of the day, you're just coaching football and you're trying to get these guys to, be out there on the field. He said at the end, if somebody has a better watch than you, it doesn't show up on the football field. If somebody has a better car than you, it doesn't show up on the football field. What does show up if you knock them back and hit them in the mouth, and you dominate them for that game. And David Braun was interesting to hear from. He wanted to talk a lot about this season. There were a lot of questions about last year and the scandal or whatever you want to call it with Fitzgerald and those kind of things. He didn't want to talk about that at all. He wanted to talk about this year. He wanted to talk about the future, and he wanted to talk about this team. And I think I really respected that he just had nothing but things to say about his team, his players, and doing everything he can for him this year. Luke Fickell was also very interesting. A lot of questions to Luke Fickell about the entire conference. Didn't get that many questions for Ryan Day or anybody, but Luke Fickell got asked about Matt Rule. He got asked about, I believe it was Iowa at one point, just kind of a lot of stuff to talk about there. And he just basically said he respects every single program and he's not going to talk too much on, what they do because he doesn't follow it as much. And I think it's interesting how much how much we follow other schools and other programs, and then you ask a coach about them and they're like, well, you probably know more than me. I don't follow it as much as you do, but overall, just a very good first day. Looking forward to tomorrow. Nebraska, Iowa. Who's the other one tomorrow? USC. I know our channels cover those tomorrow, so be a busy day tomorrow, but it'll be a good one.
All right, JR. Glad you had a good day. Good stuff. And again, we've got some clips with Denzel Burke and Jack Sawyer, everyone on the Ohio State channel. So check those out. And JR will join us again on Wednesday. And have a great evening. And thanks for the coverage on day one, JR.
Will do. I also have the full Ryan Day press conference uploading to you right now. So that should be hopefully done by the end of your episode.
Awesome. Thanks, JR.
Bye.
All right. Good stuff out of JR. And before we take calls, we want to hear once again from our sponsor, which is Chris Gates Fitness. And what a deal and what a time to get in shape. And you love football, you're avid, you're a fanatic, but we want you to be a fanatic about your fitness level as well. How about that? And so what a deal here from Chris Gates Fitness. It's called Training Camp. It's launching right now. It's a fitness membership online where you get the coaching, you get the community, and it's specifically for football fans. And it's honestly like nothing we've seen before because it just doesn't give you a list of exercises, do these on these particular days, and leaves you out to dry. You get instruction on how to actually perform the exercises, the right combinations of exercises. Each day is a different training plan. Chris has been coaching people for years. He's a professional and he's created this community. So you get that accountability, you get that inspiration, you get that motivation from bouncing off ideas within the community as well. So if you've struggled to stay consistent in the past or felt confused, again, the instruction is there and Training Camp is here to help. When you join Training Camp, you'll get top-notch coaching from Chris. He'll deliver monthly workout plans to help remove all the guesswork, and he will keep you motivated and on track, and you will better understand why you're doing what you're doing. And again, you got the online Training Camp community where members gather for support, participate in challenges, win prizes, and more. And no, you're not going to eat like a bird, no crash diets, no extreme routines, although Chris does also provide nutritional coaching there and advice. And you get all this for less than your run to Starbucks. It's $10 the first month. That's 80% off, $10 the first month. go to the link in the description section. We also have it in the chat. Go to that link, sign up there, $10 for the first month, and use the promo code VOICE, as in Voice of College Football. So please check out our sponsor and get yourself in tip-top condition. All right, let's go to the phone lines. And our buddy Sean's on the line. Sean, what's going on?
Hey, Mark, how's it going?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad. Wasn't able to listen to any of the Big Ten media days, but I caught your little roundup of it a minute ago here and heard from JR as well. I was just curious, did they talk at all about anything about the quarterback or the O-line situation for Ohio State?
Talked about offensive line. I did not hear any questions about the quarterback. None. Now, I saw Ryan Day at the podium. I didn't see his side session, which I will watch later. Just about the offensive line, he said that that's the most important position on the team. He didn't use like concerns or question marks. He didn't use those terms, but said, this is going to be the team this is going to be the unit that is going to be the difference, the key for us this season. And he was asked specifically about right guard. He didn't give any specifics. He threw out a bunch of names and said that they're all progressing. They're going to all be evaluated, of course, not just based on how well they're producing in that position and executing in that position, but how well they work with the other four. And he said strength and conditioning has been a huge focus with everyone, but the offensive line in particular this offseason.
Yeah, so I'm not surprised. Probably a lot of coach speak sounds like on that position, but no real information. Interesting that there wasn't really any discussion about the quarterback position because the starter hasn't officially been named, as far as I've heard.
No, and again, this was from the main podium. There were probably 7 or 8 questions asked, and none about the quarterback. There were questions about Chip Kelly.
Yes. Okay. So, I mean, is it an assumed conclusion that Will Howard's going to be the guy, at least to start? I mean,
yes.
So, I mean,
yeah, that's the short answer. Is it as assumed as CJ Stroud was 2 years ago? No, but it's assumed. I would be extremely surprised if he's not the starting quarterback, but I would be less surprised if he's not the starting quarterback, even if they're playing well, even if they've got 1 loss or no losses, 7 or 8 games deep, that if Julian Sain's coming along as well as he possibly could, that maybe they pull a Trevor Lawrence type move.
I mean, I would feel like it would have to involve Will Howard struggling quite a bit for him.
Yeah, sure.
For him to like, it's not. It would almost have more to do with how Howard's playing and how Sain's progressing at that point. Because honestly, if they struggle much early in the season, if he struggles much, then it's kind of a problem because they don't get tested very much very early in the season. The schedule is pretty soft to start the year for him. So, and I've heard a lot of people reference Will Howard as a question mark, or maybe the most concerning mark on this team. And I don't know. Like, I feel like I've seen enough of him to say, like, he's pretty good. He's a good quarterback, and you look at his production at Kansas State. I think he was like number 20 in the country in QBR last year, and you would think his production that production would take a significant step up given the talent and the coaching he'll have at Ohio State. So hard for me to see a situation where he's not one of the 10 or so most productive QBs in the country this year. I don't see how he's a real significant question mark, other than you just have to find one, and this team's pretty strong across the board.
Well, I have been impressed with Will Howard from the time he stepped on the field the first time for significant action, and now he's been a starter for 2.5 years. So I've always liked Will Howard, and from, again, his first meaningful time, he brought them back from like a 3-score deficit to win a game against, I think, Oklahoma State. And he's been a good quarterback. But I got to admit, if you would have asked me about Will Howard, 3 days before he left Kansas State, I would have been gushing about Will Howard. But once he became the Ohio State quarterback, my scrutiny shot through the roof.
Yeah.
And Will Howard for Ohio State versus Will Howard for Kansas State is a different equation for me. And he had some games at Kansas State that Kyle McCord didn't have last year at Ohio State, meaning 3 interception games, meaning 40% completion games. Not a lot, of course, but he had a few.
Yeah. I mean, like you can expect that, though, when you're not overwhelmingly talent. When you're I mean, I would be shocked if he has those kind of games at Ohio State. When you just got that much talent. What?
Yeah, and you're saying that because of the talent around him, but he's also going to be playing a higher caliber of defenses.
Yeah, but the talent disparity, the ratio is definitely going to be way more in his favor than it was last year. I mean, Kansas State was, at best middle of the road talent in terms of talent in the Big 12, whereas Ohio State's going to be more talented than every team they play. Pretty much.
I don't necessarily agree with that concerning Kansas State. They might have the second best team in the conference last year.
But he was a big part of that. He's a big reason why. And like you said, he basically came into a team that was sort of floundering. That was headed towards like a 6-6, 7-5 season 2 years ago. And they just about run the table and win the Big 12 there. And that guy is supposed to be the big question mark on this team. I mean, like, I think I think that just, if he's the weak link of the team, you've got a really, really strong team. And so
he's a question mark compared to Justin Fields and CJ Stroud.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, he's certainly a quarterback. I think he's definitely a quarterback good enough that you can win it all with. We've seen lesser quarterbacks win national titles. So
lesser quarterbacks have won national championships?
Yeah.
A couple.
Michigan, I mean, Ohio State won one with a quarterback I don't think was as good. Well, Ohio State actually won both their national championships in my lifetime. I think they're done with quarterbacks that aren't as good as Will Howard. I don't think Cardale Jones or Craig Krenzel are as good as Will Howard.
I don't think Krenzel is.
Yeah.
I don't know. The way Cardale Jones played for those 3 games, I don't know that he wasn't better than Will Howard. I guess Will Howard's going to get drafted.
Yeah, he will. And I'm not going to, obviously, Michigan fans are going to hate me for saying this. I'm not saying he's as good as J.J. McCarthy or as talented, but J.J. McCarthy didn't really play elite football down the stretch in their big games. They kind of won with average play from him in those big games. I think I saw the number. He had 857 yards in the final 6 games this year. So I mean, however good he might be, that wasn't exceptional. He wasn't the reason that they did that. So I mean,
I'd have to go back and look at more of his efficiency numbers rather than his total pass yardage, because they didn't give him an opportunity to put up significant
no,
pass
but
yardage.
I'm not saying he's bad or anything, but they did it without him having to be elite. He wasn't elite. He wasn't elite in the down the stretch for them, and they got it done. So that's an example of maybe somebody of them doing it without, without great quarterback play. I mean, you can say, yeah, he wasn't given the chance to be elite in those situations, but he wasn't elite, and they still won. And yeah, like Jacob Coker elite, and a whole bunch of these. AJ McCarron, one of those national title years at Bama. I just think that I think if you look down the list of teams of quarterbacks that won national championships, you'd find a lot more mediocre talents than you think.
Yeah, I get your point.
Yeah,
I think mediocre is a little strong, but yeah, I'd put Jake Coker in that category. And if Will Howard's the same player this year as he's been, and Ohio State wins the national championship, I'd put him in that category. But Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones.
yeah. I mean, like it definitely helps to have an elite quarterback. I'm not saying you'd rather have an average one, but I'm saying overall, it's not as important as it is in the NFL to have a quarterback that carries you to a championship. So,
Okay.
Yeah,
I'd say the eventual winner proves that out.
Yeah, but and just want to make one more point before I head off here. I've heard like a lot of criticisms about the certainly like listening to the Michigan podcast channel with TJ makes this point about culture. He speaks in rather grim terms about the Ohio State culture, sometimes about how they're broken. It's just a lot online too. Ohio State culture's bad, and that's why they can't get this done. I don't think you'd have 9 or 10 guys that would have been drafted return the following year if the culture was really toxic. I don't think you would see them lose nobody of significance through the portal if this was a major issue. So
yeah, so I would tend to agree with what you're saying, number one. And if you look at it from that perspective, that makes total sense. I'll take it from this perspective. If Ohio State has a bad culture and they came within one completed pass of being the number one seed in the college football playoff at 13-0, then they were far and away the best team in the country last year. If they could play through a bad culture and not playing together and really caring about each other and having a bad culture, and they were that good, wow, they must have been phenomenal.
Yeah.
Their talent level must be supersede everybody by a ton.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'll catch up on the rest of the media days that I missed today, and then I don't know. I'll probably check in sometime later on this week. I've got obligations.
Sounds good, Sean.
At the moment.
Thanks,
Thank you very much. Take care.
All right. Bit rough to hear Sean on that one. Sorry about that. We'll keep it rolling here at the Voice of College Football. Yeah, our deal is we've got the Iowa show coming up at 5:30 Eastern, and we're going to do media days a little bit later on Wednesday. We're going to go at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and then we're also going to be back with Big Ten Media Days on Thursday. And, of course, we don't want to forget about the ACC. So if you've got ACC questions for us, and, of course, we'll take those in the comments section right there. We got Adam on the line. Adam, what's going on tonight?
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing just fine. How are you?
Doing great. I'm doing great, thanks. I just had a brief point. It kind of relates to what your last caller was discussing. So, if you look at the past 20 years, the teams that have won the national titles nearly all had elite QBs. You had Joe Burrow, you had Tua, Matt Leinart, Lawrence, Jameson Winston, Cam Newton. I could go on. I mean, J.J. McCarthy. I mean, I'm not going to list all of them, but the pattern is that the teams that won national titles had very elite quarterbacks. Will Howard had a 61% completion rate last year with 24 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. He's projected as a third-round pick, and Ohio State hasn't even named him the starter. I guess there's a competition with Devin Brown and maybe even Julian Sayin. So I think Ohio State's Achilles heel, if they're going to win a national championship, is going to be the quarterback position, and that's going to create a lot of problems. I mean, even in the NFL, we know that most teams that win the Super Bowl have elite quarterbacks. So I guess my question to you is, as good as Ohio State's defense is, the defense can't be on the field too long. And if other teams can stop that offense, particularly given the offensive line and a quarterback that's not proven, Ohio State could run into problems. So what are your thoughts?
Well, my thought is that if I don't pick Ohio State to win the national championship, it's going to be because of Will Howard and the offensive line, some combination of those two things. And I agree with you. Again, I said this to our previous caller, Sean. I don't know if you heard me, that when Will Howard was at Kansas State, and I remember watching Will Howard's first game at Kansas State. He came off the bench, he led a comeback, and then he proceeded to have 2.5 really good seasons of football at Kansas State. That as Kansas State's quarterback, I sang the praises of Will Howard. Once he became an Ohio State quarterback, I thought, well, I don't know if he's an Ohio State quarterback. Then I looked a little more at not just the overall numbers that you just read off, but if you look at the game by game totals, he put up a couple statistical lines in critical games that were big for them to try to win a Big 12 championship, that were ugly. If Kyle McCord didn't put up anything close to the ugly games statistically that Will Howard did. So, yeah, I have some concerns there, and I can come up with Jake Coker and a couple other guys that have won national championships as, if we call them mediocre or marginal quarterbacks, that's a bit strong. As college quarterbacks, they weren't mediocre. They were still, Jake Coker was still one of the top 20 or 25 quarterbacks in college football. So he wasn't mediocre. He didn't make an NFL team, is what turned out. But yes, all the guys that you just listed, and Jameis Winston, even if you want to consider Stetson Bennett not an elite quarterback, he's not an elite quarterback in that he didn't propel that career into an NFL career, and he's having a lot of physical issues. So that's standing in his way right now. But as a collegiate, people don't like to hear this, but as a collegiate quarterback, Stetson Bennett was an elite quarterback. So, yeah, it's tough to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think Stetson was absolutely elite. And I think Cardell Jones, for the games that he played for Ohio State, was elite. Now, there are outliers. Like, I think it was Craig Krenzel. He was an outlier, I think, in 2002. Jay Barker in 1992 when Alabama beat Miami. But most of the time, you need an elite quarterback. And I think that's going to be Ohio State's issue this year. And I just keep thinking that there might be a team that people aren't talking about as much that's going to win the national championship, and I keep coming back to Notre Dame. But we'll see what happens. It's going to be an amazing year. Thanks always for taking my call. Always great talking to you.
Thank you, Adam. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks.
We've got the link in the chat if you want to give us a call, and keep in mind that we keep it rolling here at the Voice of College Football for the next 25 minutes or so. We will be right here. When we leave, we really don't leave. We go right over to the Iowa channel. We got Corey Bratta standing by from the Hawkeye of the Storm. We will continue our coverage of Big Ten Media Days on the Iowa channel. And we've got a bit of a Wisconsin take there on the Iowa channel as well. So Luke Fickell spoke to the media today. I did not get a chance to hear that except for about 3 or 4 minutes from Luke Fickell. He was asked about competing against Big Ten coaches on the recruiting trail and asked about Matt Rule in particular, and if he was impressed or what his observations were concerning Matt Rule building the Nebraska football program. And Luke Fickell was pretty non-committal. Basically, yeah, he's doing his job over there. I'm doing my job. I really don't pay attention to what these other guys are doing, except for when I cross paths on the recruiting trail, and we're recruiting some of the same players in the same footprint. But besides that, Luke Fickell also made a comment about the Wisconsin football brand being more powerful and influential and more far-reaching than he thought. He thought that the only players he would get would be in the upper Midwest, and then maybe stretching to Ohio, and then maybe a la Barry Alvarez jumping over to the East Coast to New Jersey to get some players. But he said he has been pleasantly surprised at the receptivity of players in places like California and Texas and Florida to play at Wisconsin. We have a post for you from Steve Dace. We got together to run through his college football preview. So Steve is way ahead of me on this one. He's got his full lineup of all his standings. He's got every division race, every conference race all lined up. I guess there are no division races left, are they? They're all just conference races. He's got them all lined up, all the wins and losses. He's got all conference teams. He's got all of it lined up. And Steve and I got together for about 45 minutes yesterday, and that will be hot on the presses and delivered to you here in the next day or so. Also, I had a good conversation with Mr. Phil Steele, and I appreciate him. And we also had a great conversation after the record. But we appreciate Phil Steele being here. And we will release that conversation this week. And actually, Phil said after our conversation, he said, we need to do this more often. He said, hit me up and I'll jump on before the season starts. So I said, absolutely. So Phil Steele and Steve Dace this week, be looking out for those videos. And we will continue to take you through Big Ten Media Days and ACC kickoff. Let's not forget about the ACC. Come on now. And also keep in mind that maybe I miss some comments that are interesting during these media days. If there's anything that you would like to request in terms of me looking over something that was stated that might be eye-raising or controversial or interesting or outright wrong, I'll certainly look it over. But I have not heard those kind of statements yet at Big Ten Media Days or ACC Media Days, or the SEC concluded last week. But of course, we were here with SEC Media Days all last week, and then the Big 12. So we are almost out of media days, and then it's going to be right into fall camp. And I guess about the most ridiculous things that I've heard in this 2-week run was that of Paul Feinbaum. Basically, that what Ryan Day said today was unacceptable, which was uncalled for, made no sense. Ryan Day was basically saying it's unacceptable for us to lose to Michigan. That's the game we got to win. We're gunning for a national championship, but we can't win it tomorrow. So we're just putting our nose down. We're going to work hard. We're going to get better by the day, and we have to win today. We have to keep working each and every day. But he in no way tried to make an excuse or deny the fact that they've lost to Michigan for 3 consecutive years and that you can't do that. He says we can't lose any games at Ohio State. Well, Ryan Day, it's a new era. You can lose 2. But that was not good enough for Paul Feinbaum. And then I guess earlier, I did not hear this out of Paul Feinbaum, but I heard it from enough people that I believe I can confirm that he made a statement about Lincoln Riley, this being his last year at USC, and that after Lincoln Riley leaves USC, I don't know whether that means he's going to get fired, which I highly doubt. I don't think this USC administration right now is in the business of, 8-4, you're fired. So especially with a guy with the credentials of Lincoln Riley and the financial investment they have. So it must be that Lincoln Riley is going to move on and go coach somewhere else. And Paul Feinbaum believes that USC should go and hire Deion Sanders. No. No. All right. Yes, John, letting us know in the chat about Feinbaum. It reminded me of, and I looked this up the other day, when Feinbaum was brought up concerning somebody. Well, it was on our USC show last week. We talked about Feinbaum going after Lincoln Riley, that I looked it up just to confirm. And yes, he clearly stated, Feinbaum did, that Jim Harbaugh should have been fired after the 2020 season. He was calling for his head after the 2020 season. Michigan fans, just remember, I was the guy. I was the Jim Harbaugh apologist saying, are you kidding me? This guy's an excellent football coach. He's one of the best coaches in the country. Look at what he did at Stanford. Look at what he did with the San Francisco 49ers. Look at what he did at Michigan when he first took over the program. Got to stay with him. You're not going to do any better. He wants to win. He loves this university. He loves this football program. He's invested. He's proven it multiple times. Stay with him. I beat the drum for Jim Harbaugh. All right. Do appreciate y'all being here at the Voice of College Football, and keep in mind that we've got a sponsor for Big Ten Media Days this week. Yes, we do, and it is Chris Gates Fitness, and we are happy to be partnered with Chris and his team there at Chris Gates Fitness and the launch of Training Camp. Now, what is that all about? Well, so our new sponsor, Chris, is an online fitness coach. He's a pro. He's a massive college football fan. He's created a fitness community designed specifically for football fans like you, like me. If you're ready to elevate your health and fitness goals, you can do it with a group of like-minded people. So you've got the resources of Chris, his training programs, his exercises that change by the day. It's a plan that is not, oh, you do the same workouts every day. No, they are specific to each day. You get instruction on how to do the exercises. You get encouragement from a community, just like you do here at the Voice of College Football. You get a community there at training camp. So you have to check this out, folks. Just at least click on the link. It's in the chat. It's also in the description section of the video. Your promo code is VOICE, and it's only $10 for the first month. $10. You get customized monthly workout programs that will help you build muscle, burn fat, feel more athletic. There are before and after pictures on the site. Check them out. You get live Q&A sessions with Chris, exclusive community support, and more will help hold you accountable. Training camp members also compete in fitness challenges each month, and you get a weekly football pick'em. Didn't know about that. Chris gives out free prizes like home gym equipment, supplements, free one-on-one coaching calls, and more. And if you join this week and use the code VOICE, you'll get 80% off the first month, and that means it's only $10 your first month. $10. $10. To quote arguably my favorite TV show of all time, $10, Mike. $10. If somebody can name the show that I am quoting, what are we going to do? We'll give you $50 at the store. $50 merch at the store if you can name the show that I just quoted. $10, Mike. $10. Okay. Who else was at the podium at Big Ten Media Days today? I believe it was Purdue and Wisconsin, Ohio State, Northwestern, Illinois. And exactly, Jason. What show is that? Okay. We're just a few minutes away from Iowa Hawkeyes live right here at the Voice of College Football. I'm going to jump over to the Iowa channel, and it's always a good time with Corey Bratta from the Hawkeye of the Storm. George is here, bringing some of that Florida Gator vibe to the Big Ten. And let's not forget the ACC kickoff today as well. And there it is. Get in shape and get 80% off now with Training Camp. This week's sponsor for our Big Ten media coverage. All right, folks, I believe that should do it, but we only take a 10-minute break. Join us on the Iowa channel with Corey Bratta from the Hawkeye of the Storm. It's going to be a good time. It always is with Corey. So join us there in just 10 or 15 minutes, and we will see you then.